We're gonna start with,
Okay,
be here all day.
okay.
Oh, there she comes.
Yes.
Just in time.
Who's gonna call out the.
Okay. So we'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is Treasurer Ludlow with budget updates.
Isn't basically, we've already gone over everything that I would have had. We started at 917,632 deficit, down to a deficit of 519,479. And we've already discussed those changes, things that they included. Which is the position in the commissioner's office, 75,000 from the land bank, taking 100% of the net revenue for the tax revolving fund next year. Instead of taking 243,000, you're taking 486,000. And then we had some revenue sharing adjustments. And that's how we came up with 519 rather than 917.
So we turn way down.
Yes.
Okay. As long as we keep going down, we should be good. Down is good. Hopefully no one will come to us to go up. I look over at you guys sitting there nonchalant. Okay, so is that all you have then, Kim?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Joe Curtis. Here to bring us good news.
I don't know how to classify news anymore. I guess I'll just let you know what I got. It's the drug court. So I had put in for the grant. That's the first time that I had to do a grant. I'm not a grant writer. I think in hindsight, I was supposed to go ask you folks before I write a grant, whether I can have permission to write a grant, and I didn't. And so anyways, I wrote one. They didn't give me what I wanted. I initially told the state then they could just take their money back because I was extremely frustrated with them. I've been asking them since March, give me enough money to hire a person to run the drug court because I can't do it. I can't do that job along with probate and district court. And it's always been the duty that's been kicked around. It kind of started the prosecutor's office, wrote grants at times, and they did some of them. It's just kind of been moved around, and understanding where district court was headed. And that's why I came to you folks last year when I said, I'm not going to have two probation officers so they can do half duties as probation so they can cover a drug court. To me, the district court has to function on its own before you have a specialty court. To me, it just is the way it works. If you want to have something nice, you need to have, the base set first instead of having hands in all places. And that's why I said, I want one probation officer, but in order for district court to function, my staff needs another clerk. That's where I came to you folks and I made that trade, understanding that coming this way, and I was trying to shore up things from our perspective. So where we're at is they did give me a grant for $53,000.
You did get a grant for 50?
53,000 is what I got. I have till November 1st to thus reallocate that money within the state grant for how we would run the drug court. And so I'm working with some entities to see if right now is seeing if Sunrise Center can do our case management, having another local entity be drug testing, and trying to simplify the grant from at least my perspective in the sense of having to account to the state. And by putting it in as a contractual stuff, it's real clean. You can just bill somebody for a month, that's your bill, as opposed to right now we have one person that's a compliance officer and trying to go through the accountings of, well, he's also a bailiff and here's their hours, and trying to justify $2.48 every 2 months in disability life insurance that the county pays and prorating. It's just, to me, it's a nightmare. But again, I'm not a grant writer and I'm not really, that type of accounting doesn't interest me. So I was trying to simplify it. So I think what I was supposed to come here is ask is, can I take the $53,000 and try to run a drug court? I guess that's.
So you're getting 53, was there a county match?
No, there's no match. And I guess if you want bad news, I can talk to you about bad news about what I think has happened in the past, or I can not talk about bad news and leave it simply at.
If you don't talk about the bad news, it'll just go away.
It doesn't get better with time. I'm sorry.
Well, so there is no match. It's I think
It's a reimbursement grant.
reimbursement grant. So
You have to pay for it first.
We get our bills, they get signed off on, they go over, county pays them, and then quarterly we resubmit them to the state. And then the state nitpicks them and goes through and fight with them to get reimbursed. When I ran the budget thing here and got the old one, I saw that there was two kind of line items under revenues that had never been used or really accounted for drug court, one of which is their participant fees. So we charge each participant $600. They're supposed to pay it off at a rate of $50 a month. Everybody's in drug court for 2 years. There's no, the legislature has changed the collections of fines and costs against defendants where it's, in my opinion, it's kind of pointless to even have fines and costs because you can't hold them in jail for not paying because all they have to do is not have a job or, oh, no, that payment to the county, I can't make it because it puts me in financial undue hardship and so then just let them out. Like it's really, really frustrating. It used to work in the sense of, oh, you haven't paid your fines and costs. Well, your bail set at this. Guess what? People usually find some money to get bail and get paid out, but it's different. So, but that comes in as a line item, but it's never been allocated to drug court. It just goes into the general fund and gets spent. Our budget has always been based upon the state grant or the federal grant that was before my time. There was also a line item in under district court filing fee allocation. And I realized, I think I just kind of got to this last week, got it in, said, hey, get on Tuesday. And so as the court administrator, this is under revenue, like, what is this? And so then lo and behold, that's where I get to is that there is a statute that then sets on district court civil actions, a portion of the filing fee that any plaintiff pays has to go to drug courts. The way the language reads is that shall be used by the district funding unit to fund a drug treatment court if one is planned, established, or operated in that judicial district. So those monies, I believe by statute, are supposed to slide over into some column that is to then be used to offset the drug court. This is, I guess, the bad news that I said, I never knew this was the case. Now I'm looking at the law and it's telling me this money is supposed to be over there for a drug court. I don't know then what that does and or what we've ever said in the past when I think I've signed things before saying, no, we have no other forms of money. So yes, when I'm spending the grant money, that's what's being used. One simple way of, I know clearly, simply tell me, we don't want a drug court. I know that much. And again, I'm not your attorney and I'm not here to try to, again, argue statutes that I just looked at this morning before coming in here. But when it says shall be used, shall is a pretty controlling word. So, and this often, I think we had taken in $550 this month already on those type of filing fees. And so I know I'm just looking at the past years and I forecasted at 4,000. I see, give or take been in those ballparks. So I don't know if that money, like I said, and this is just throwing it out there, is supposed to then be in a line item that goes over. So then each year when I tell the state, hey, you gave me 53,000, but our county has 4,000 to contribute and I have to use that first. I don't know how any of that works. I would say the easy way to tell you is if you want that money clear, you simply say don't fund a drug. And then you don't run into the problem of planned, established, or operated. And so if we have no drug court, those filing fees no longer should be allocated to a drug court. They would just continue to flow to the,
It'd stay in district.
pardon me?
It'd stay in district court.
But everything we collect anyways goes to the general fund, right? I mean, we don't have a
You are part,
over amount
yes.
that's district.
You
court.
are part of the general fund, district court and drug court, both at this time.
Yeah, I mean, it does, I think, end by saying, yeah, if not, it goes to the district court, but again, we have a general fund. We don't have, well, hey, you guys have collected that, so this is your money, just like if the sheriff collects theirs, they don't get to say, hey, this is our money. I mean, it all goes back in, so that's, I guess, the good with the bad. And
So just a quick question. You said, putting the fiscal pieces aside, you said if, don't fund a drug court. What's if drug court is no longer exists as it is today, what's the alternative? It just rolls into the district court, those offenders, and,
to be frank, they'd be all circuit court. My drug court is, even though it's within the district court,
okay,
pretty much everybody I have are in on felonies because we have to use a scoring mechanism that
Okay.
is high risk, high needs. And so the people that are in, they would just be monitored through probation.
probation at through circuit court.
Correct. Or some will go to prison, some will go to jail, some will come out, it just depends on what, you just don't have that offer anymore of saying, hey, all right, this is your, fifth methamphetamine charge. Instead of going to prison for, 2 to 10 years, you get to do drug court. We'll delay all your jail as long as you successfully complete, you have no prison sentence. That offer may not be on the table. There would be, in my opinion, there's ways to always get creative when it comes to offers to solving cases. If somebody truly has a drug or alcohol problem, there's ways to then put it back upon an individual to say, well, I can tell you when I was a defense attorney before and didn't have people that could get in, I crafted a whole way of saying, hey, well, my client will do everything that you're supposed to be doing in drug court, but through these other mechanisms to say, hey, to try to, didn't always work with the prosecutor, but at least you can, in my opinion, then from defense and prosecutor, if you truly care and truly believe that this is a substance abuse issue, you can find ways to work at. I'm frustrated with drug court, I'll tell you, partly just because of the way things changed, and I've been asking the state now since March to fund, because the way it works is you can, in April, ask to reallocate, excuse me, because their grant runs October through September. So April's the midpoint where you can ask for more, and that timed up and they didn't, give it to me, and just, they're just difficult to work with. And so I am a little frustrated with it, but and so we haven't, since we lost, haven't been able to hire someone new. I can't train somebody because they require you to use a validated risk needs assessment in order before you can allow people in. So we haven't been able to grow our drug court. So right now we have 6 people, and so it's the way the grant, at least we have it set at up to 20 people. And that's just from a management perspective. So if you say that, nope, we don't want you to take the grant money, then clean up so I haven't brought anybody new in since the last person we brought in was right there at actually about March. And so it would just be cleaning up what we have.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, so are you able to then work those cases, if you will, that, when you said as need, you view the individual and see if that's something that you can work with. As the judge, can you do that, or is that gonna be proposed by the defendant's lawyer?
Yeah, as a judge, you either okay an agreement or reject an agreement. I mean, I guess part of rejecting an agreement, you could say, hey, well, if you folks, this is my issue, sometimes a rejecter would say, hey, it's a no jail offer. Well, no, you guys, I want that as a component. So you're not into the negotiating. That is really between the prosecutor and the defense attorney to come up with the agreement, and you okay it or reject it.
But you can tweak it?
You can tweak it in the sense of, or if they say, hey, and again, because most of the stuff that comes into drug court would ultimately be in front of Judge Black, but say somebody in front of me that was an OWI second, but they had a really bad drug and alcohol history in the past, that one could be an offense that gets you there. That would ultimately, still be in front of me. So if they weren't in, yes, as part of a sentence, as long as it's not constrained by, sometimes they'll have agreements on, okay, no jail or only probation, or these things that are agreed upon. If it's open and you tell that the problem is, substance abuse related, yes, you could say, all right, I want you to go to treatment. And when you get out of treatment, do all these things. You as a judge, yes, can come up with ideas. The drug court has a lot more to do with the really giving individuals every opportunity to succeed, and kind of removing the barriers that keep a lot of people from succeeding in treatment, which is figuring out, all right, what's your transportation plan? All right, what is going on with your mental health? You don't have a doctor. Oh, you've never gotten on Medicaid. You don't have insurance. Here's the resources to help find a place to live. It helps get them all of those tools that we have in the community that they're they wouldn't get through probation by any means. I mean, probation is basically you're reporting once a month and, you know, felony probation, you get drug tested twice a week or, excuse me, twice a month, and they know which days those are. Like if you can't pass a drug test that you know is coming every 2 weeks, even with using drugs in between, then you deserve to be not out in public. So, yeah, there would be a loss. There's definitely a loss if there's not a drug court. And I can tell you that's where I backed off when I initially said the state gave me the 53,000 wasn't enough to hire a person running it. That's why I fired off an email saying, you know, this is on your shoulders. You know, everybody in the future that loses out, this is on you guys. I'm done. I'm not. And then I said, I hadn't thought about it more and more and said, well, you know what? At least I have to try with what they have. I can't give up on the people in the future. But now, like I said, now looking at this, I found it, I debated on whether or not even tell you about the fact that at least that's the way, again, to talk to your county attorney about it. Looks like that money is supposed to be going into a drug court. And so you folks can look at that. It's not, like I said, it's not, I don't think it's a astronomical amount of money. Like I said, it looks like 2023 was 4,579, but again, it's based upon civil filings, and our civil filings have really started to ratchet way back up, especially after COVID when they went down. But it also, all of those civil filings, if you think about it, are the hospital collecting on debts. It's all of the general civil less than 25,000. So it's all of our kind of local debts. And so a lot of those have really increased after COVID. So that number is going up. And that's why I wanted to be honest with you guys is that, I mean, it's $5,000, but I'd rather have, Frank, I'd rather give $5,000 to Eric to run the sheriff's department than to run a drug court, because I can get up here at public comment, but I truly believe as a citizen of the United States, citizen of Michigan, citizen in Alpena County, if you pick up the phone and you dial 911, I'm going to get an ambulance, I'm going to get a cop, or I'm going to get a fire truck. Outside of that, taxes can go to a lot of things, but those, that's it. I mean, I love libraries. I love having pool. I love all of these things. I love having parks, but as a citizen, that's what I believe my government's going to give. But
Jim, is there a counting problem moving? I mean, I don't see the counting problem moving that, those fees over to that line item. I mean,
Okay, so in which way? Right now, because we've had a drug court, that money, and this is all done in district court and it's done through their transmittal when they receipt for it, the percentage is put in. If they stop having a drug court, they're just going to change where they post that money to.
Yeah.
well, okay, but if it doesn't have to go to the state, then, and again, I'm only starting to learn how fines and costs and the breakdown of.
We're talking going forward, not back.
Yeah,
But going-
saying if we don't collect, it's $5 per, you know, each kind of thing. If we don't collect that because we do not have a drug court, why wouldn't it go to the general fund?
It does,
Okay,
but it's still a district court revenue. It's
Correct.
district court revenue within the general fund rather than drug court revenue within the general fund like it is now.
my point is, I believe the way the statute reads is that isn't just district court revenue that goes to the general fund. It's district court revenue that goes to drug court,
That's where,
not the general fund.
It's part of general fund. District court's part of general fund. So you're saying the same thing.
Okay, I'm just saying, the way I read this is that $4,000, we're not supposed to be spending other places.
right, as long as we have a drug court.
As long as we have
That
drug
is
court.
correct.
You tell me no drug court, give it to Sheriff Smith. And that's my take on it is I'm
And
upset.
technically, you could say we're giving it to Sheriff Smith but you can't take district court revenue and put it into the sheriff's
I'm
office.
just making
Yeah.
the point of if we are able to allocate $5,000 instead of to the drug court, in my humble opinion, that $5,000 should go to Sheriff Smith. I understand we can't say this is where it's gonna go in, but it's all in the same kitty.
It's all in the
Pay for
same
everything out of.
Yes.
So
Judge, just curious, how many people go through drug court annually? Just a ballpark figure. I know it probably fluctuates, but let's say like last year, for example.
well, last year's not a great, we maxed out at 20. I don't know if the drug court had ever run at 20. Call it 10 to 15.
10 to 15 normally?
Right. And then,
6 now, sir, you said,
Yeah,
or there.
give or take. But that's again, because I haven't been able to admit a person in the last 7 months. And it'll take a bit if we do, because again, trying to get people back in and going through, because the way that the drug courts and the state tells us is that understand it's a grant-based program and thus grants can go away. So you should be working on figuring out how to be somewhat self-sufficient. So that's, I mean, that's what the state is telling us.
sorry, and Judge, just real quick too, just wanted to follow up. You said that if we didn't have drug court, most of these cases go before Judge Black. You gave your opinion, but have you spoken to him about this? How would he feel about this going away? And would
Judge Black has told me he will 100% support whatever decision I make.
Okay.
I have not talked to him about the line item, realizing, oh, these dollars are supposed to, that I figured this out this morning when I was coming in saying, well, there's 2 lines in here about revenue and I only know where one of them comes from, which is the grant. And there's 2 other ones. I understand that we have our district court fees, but I don't think those 4 drug court participants and that is offset, district court costs. I can understand how those can get lost in the general fund. However, when I saw this, then that made me, like I said, pause and wanting to be honest with you folks that, and that's just my kind of quick reading of this and you can talk with who like, but that's, I do think it would be very clear if there is no drug court, then those dollars remain part of the district court collection of fees and where they go to.
So the original grant request for the state for drug court was for how much?
I think it was like 138,000.
Okay, so this is about just under 50% of the.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, some of the stuff that, you put into a grant, it's like, hey, we're hiring a new person. Can I get $1,500 for a computer? All right, fine. I understand if you're not, some of those things. But that's why, and then the way that at least it proposed to you folks of my budget is going to be vastly under contractual because I'm going to the big part is you have to have case management, meaning you have to have the person that they meet with that then inputs it into the system that then speaks to the state and helps them coordinate with all the other people. And you really need to have drug testing. And that was part of why I was looking to contract that out. I had thought about trying to use the sheriff's department and well, that was turning into probably not going to work, partly because, if you have male and female participants, depending on the nature of the test you give, then you have to have 2 different people that are available. And it's just, to me, it is. I'll tell you, it's a great program, but it's busy. Like I said, I have a district court and a probate court and running the drug court is the whole other court. And there is a segment of our community that we really need, but it's small. When you look at it in proportion to all the other files out there and the amount of resources you spend. And that's why it's, not my decision. And that's why I'm kind of coming to you folks about where I'm at, what I see of it. What would happen is they would just continue to be processed, defended, just like in any other place that doesn't have a drug court, and there's a lot of them in the area. Most communities have one of some sort. We do have a veterans court through Mount Morency that's still running, and that's a joint between the circuit, but and Alcona has a version of a drug court, but theirs is not as robust as ours was or is. And then Sheboygan Presqu'île has a drug court, but there's places that don't have them, or they have alcohol courts and different things. But that's kind of it. It's the 53,000. I wasn't really, again, until I learned this stuff this morning, was only going to try to talk to you about the 53,000 and saying this is how I'm going to continue to try to do it as I always have. And what had worried me is, again, now seeing this, when I sign off on these grants and on these bills saying there's no other money, now I'm learning that there is other money. And that's why I guess going forward, I've now read this and that creates an issue for me then when I'm either get the grant that I signed off on or going forward. I need to make sure that if I have to have that money and use that money, then I have to come to you folks and say, sorry, but I got to claw back 4,000 or 5,000. Again, it's not, but it's money. And I do believe, I know we've talked with you. I know we try to run our office as thin as we can, both probate and district court. And I've always tried to be a team player and let you know it is a way to save money. So.
Okay, so Any comments or questions by any of the commissioners? So then we need to figure out how we're gonna move forward.
Yeah, let me know. I'm gonna continue to do what, at least the, without, I have till November first to reallocate within the grant. And so I think that would be my deadline, telling the state of whether or not taking the money or not. I told them as of now, yes, we'll try to work it out, but that's not, obviously not committed.
So when, do we have a,
Do October 22nd, we have another meeting, so we can put this on the
so
agenda.
let us give some time to each of the commissioners or a few of us to figure out something and then move forward.
Yeah, and we'll get you then recent updated as to where we're at through 2025, what we've collected so far.
Okay,
Or I guess, I don't know if Kim can run that or not. At least you can say, all I was looking at was 22, 23, 24 activities so far when I said, all right, well, I'm gonna put it over as.
okay,
So,
okay.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for your time, everybody.
Thank you. So next item, Jesse, once again, 2025 budget discussion.
Can I give a brief synopsis? I guess I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, and that's, obviously we announced the cuts to the sheriff's department. We do have some small item budget. It's not going to be 500,000, but some other things that may pan out, may not. So obviously we can't budget for that. I'm working on them. Some of them are contractual. So for that reason, I'm not going to go ahead and discuss it. Let you know about that. Happy to sit down or talk to you and fill you in kind of on the details. But as we continue working toward that, there might be a small chipping off of that 500,000. But again, it's not going to be 500,000. So, but just two items I thought maybe this board, this body rather would like to accomplish today. One is we do have the matter of the approximately $800,000 in ARPA funds. Discussions with the chairman of Finance, Ways and Means and of the board. Sound like the recommendation might be to use those funds to basically balance out 2024 so that we can put all of our focus moving forward on 2025. So if those were to be allocated, it would help close up that gap. Treasurer Lobo, I apologize. What's the?
Yeah, no, I'd like to, when you guys got this far, kind of give you your percentages, your numbers and all that kind of gobbledygook. I did go ahead and print out where we're at right now. But what I want, I can tell you that, I can send this around, but what I want to is not only tell you where we're at right now, but the differences where we would land. Because you have the 24.97% is your current budget policy, that if you drop below that, then you're looking at laying off, all your temporary and part-time and starting to make cuts. And with your policy, if you drop below 19.97%, then you're looking at layoffs across the board. And when I say those percentages, if you drop below, what it is if you take your next year's budgeted expenses, if your projected end of this year's fund balance is less than the 24.97% of next year's budgeted expenses, then you're supposed to, start doing those layoffs. And if your projected end of this year's fund balance is less than 19.97%, then you're supposed to look at layoffs across the board. And this is, we don't have enough money to pay our bills. We don't get our county operating revenue until the end of July, which means what we have come January 1st has to support us. Basically, you can say till August. Yes, we bring some money in, but we need over half of our money to come from what we have saved up from the previous year or our beginning fund balance. We don't have enough cash flow to make it. Okay. So as of right now, today, the 25 budget is showing expenditures of $12,871,561. That's what we currently have in the 25 budget expenditures. As of today, with all the adjustments we've made, we've just finished third quarter budget adjustments. We're looking at a projected unrestricted fund balance for 2024 of $2,338,355. which is 18.17% of your budgeted 25 expenses. So, couple of real quick things I can do. I can take our budgeted expenses and I can take off the 500, oh, where is it? $519,479, which we're currently short of being balanced for 25. If I do that, that still leaves our percentage of fund balance of this year at 18.93%. So even if we balance next year's budget, cut another $520,000 in expenses, we still don't get to our 20%. We still are looking at layoffs. Okay, so that is that part of it. But if I leave our expenditures the way they're at right now, and I add to this year's revenue, let's see. Right now you have $991,268 in ARPA funds. Of those ARPA funds, $129,166 of it is committed. You do have another $38,240 committed. That was for outfitting sheriff vehicles that I don't believe we're going to be using. So if we take the 991 and we subtract the 129,166, technically you have $862,102 of ARPA funds that is not committed. If this money is not committed and or spent by 12/31 of this year, you have to give it back. So I would strongly advise you either budget it and or spend it by 12/31. So if I were to take and add to our anticipated revenue for this year, let's say 600,000 of that $862,000 ARPA funds. Just doing that alone would bring my projected fund balance for this year to $2,938,355, which equals 22.83% of your current budgeted expenses for 25. It's not no layoffs, but at least it helps. If you were to take the entire $862,102 and say, we're putting it in our 24 budget right now to help take care of our $1.1 million budgeted deficit for 24, that brings you to 24.86 of next year's current budgeted expenses, which means you're what, 0.06% off?
So we have to
That's,
increase our percentage now. Because we can do that.
I would strongly recommend, because your problem is not just your 25 budget. It's your 24 budget and your 25 and your 23 budget. That's why at my reading of your report for September, when I said to you at the beginning of 23, you had 4.4 million. But at the beginning of your 24, you had 3.5. You lost 900,000, almost $1 million last year. If you lose $1 million again this year, cutting our budgets right down to nothing for 25 isn't going to fix it. You have to look at reducing how much you're losing this year and your budget for next year. That's why I'm recommending that you do something, preferably this year, with that ARPA money to help get you through. Because if you do not, if the millage does not pass, you're not supposed to take 100% of the tax revolving fund, which is another 243,000, without even thinking about it. We don't know how long we're going to keep getting money from the landfill. Normally, we were getting 150,000. That's been cut to 75, and they had to beg for that. You have to start making these adjustments. As Brenda Fernier has indicated, we'd kick this can down the road as far as we can. If we hadn't had the ARPA money the last 3-4 years, that's another 800,000. Might as well say $1 million a year.
Sure.
We would have already used up.
Let's use that money to balance the budget this year, get the budget under control.
We don't have enough to balance this year's budget.
I mean, put it,
It'll help, but we can't even balance this year's budget with all of that money.
Well, and I agree with
Put on,
what you're
dude.
saying is we need to take that money. We have to have it committed because we're not going to give it back. So I think what we need to do is have that discussion of what the rest of the board feels like. Do we put the remaining balance of the ARPA into the general fund this year to help get us closer to that? If that's what you guys want to do, then I think we need to make that decision.
I think, we've only got 3 more. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I just said it's not even a question what we should be doing.
Oh,
Yeah, my point was gonna be, we've only got, less than 3 months in FY '24, and I don't see us having any magic wand to be able to fix.
Our current adjustments, we're looking at $1,001,000. Last year, we lost 905,000. It's going to be really close
Yeah.
if we don't make some kind of adjustment, which, as you can tell, drops our fund balance. So it makes it even less that we have available to spend. We've made cuts in the 25 budget and expenditures. We've tried to find other places to creatively come up with more money, and we're still $519,000 short.
okay. So,
And a lot of that money is the one-time fix.
yeah, oh, I know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like 26 we'll be able to do it again.
I know a couple of years ago, we took the budget stabilization fund that had been there for years.
And we took the majority of the base security fund a few years back. We left a little bit in there because we didn't know what we were going to have for unemployment claims over a couple of years. Well, guess what? It was a couple of years later and that was all cleared up. And now we took everything from there as well.
So we-
And the delinquent tax revolving fund from 2009 to 2024, with the exception of 3 years, maybe 4, you guys have been taking 100% of the net revenue. And your policy says 50%. This is nothing new. 2009 was how many years ago?
Couple of years ago.
Yeah. We need to get serious.
Well, and I said, I think we have, the board now feels that we need, where we don't have a choice.
No.
Like Brenda said, we don't have a choice. So if we don't make a decision, if we don't do something, it's going to come back and bite us. We're not going to be in a good situation. So,
you need a motion for that?
yeah,
So we had 862,000 that's not committed. Can we take all of that, or do we just use 600,000 like you said?
No, all of it.
you want to make
Yeah.
sure you use every penny because whatever we don't commit is going back.
Okay, well, then I would suggest we commit to $862,000.
862, yeah, because you're going to have interest. I mean, it depends on how quickly you can move this through and then I can transfer it before more interest is earned. You're going to
Should we
get,
drag our feet?
Take all of it. Just say we take all of it.
Well,
but we have to hold on to $129,166, which is what you currently have appropriated for the 24 budget for the DDA appropriation. They haven't given us a bill yet, so we haven't paid it.
So just talking about language, it would be 100% of the available or uncommitted ARPA funds
That would,
to our 2024 general fund.
Is that what your motion is?
yes.
And I will support that.
Well, try to beat you too. Okay, so we have a motion and support. Any other discussion on moving those ARPA funds? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Bray. Yes. Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Konachevsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes. Motion, you're
Thank you.
welcome. I wish all the decisions that we had were that easy.
That was not an easy one.
Well, it's a lot easier than some. There it is. Okay, so any other discussion with that? I know, so, and again, I've probably said this more than I'll say it, but I know I've spent a lot of time in the commissioner's office trying to go over stuff. I've met with some of you guys to talk about different things. We have looked under every rock that we can look to see if there's any other money left, and, you know, we're at the end of the line, so. I know there's a lot of decisions, and again, I've said this before, this board needs to make those hard decisions, and guess what? It's coming quick, so. We'll have more discussion. So do we have anything else, or is that it?
That was it, just, we are still in union negotiations, so again, just want to let everybody know that obviously there will be a small adjustment, but I've kind of built that into what I was projecting anyways and what I'm working toward, but again, those are still ongoing, and we're meeting again in about 2 weeks, with DPOAM. I have 911 and 88th District, coming up tomorrow.
So how did that go? What's today?
Still in negotiations. You know, it's a civil conversation. I think, one item that I took away from it was, I think going in, my focus was on preserving jobs. And it seemed to me that their focus was on maintaining or building upon the benefits and perks. Which I've made it clear, like, obviously, the higher those go, money has to come from somewhere. So what they're choosing in essence is for us to then look at jobs within their departments to offset being able to stabilize that. But again, you know, I mean, it was the first talk. We'll have a second one and see what we come to.
Okay. Any other discussion before we close? If not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Hay. Support by Commissioner Chesky. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.